what I noticed was that when you're in your higher self, you have like a lot of Holy Spirit, right? And you stay on point. You stay in the zone, on that frequency. But then there's other times when you're in your lower self, where sometimes you have to be in your lower self because you can't be on 100% of the time, all the time, or you become unbalanced. So when you become unbalanced, that's a bad thing. So let's say when you're in your lower self, you have to obey the rules and laws that you gained and understood when you was in your higher self. So when you're in your higher self, you're over here, you understand what you're doing, and then you understand the lessons behind it. But then when in your lower self, you got to sit back and then obey it. So that means that if you know you should do X, Y, and Z, you already had a conversation with yourself and God and whatnot. Like, that's when you have to stick to it. You know what I'm saying? Not being afraid, right? Ain't that the same as when Jesus is with you, right? He was sending a helper ahead of you, right? Which would be the Holy Spirit. Now, I'm going to say that Jesus would be likened to that Holy Spirit when he was with the apostles. So the Holy Spirit wasn't active at that time because he was there. He took the place of Holy Spirit at that time. So when he left, then the Holy Spirit would be there. This is what's making sense. So if the Holy Spirit would be there at that time, basically it's like this: when you're in your lower self is when you are separated from Holy Spirit. You get me? So when you're separated from Holy Spirit, the only thing you can do at that point is obey, which that is what the Holy Spirit, you know, I'm gonna say, you know, in a sense does. Yeah, it is. It's him, you know. And then, you know, you have Jesus, but I was gonna say Jesus, and how Jesus, because I get frightened with the Holy Spirit. You know, I'll be honest, you know, when they talk about grieving the Holy Spirit, I be like, you got to be on point. Make sure you saying it right. But also you got to have that boldness to know. Because Jesus did say at one point, you can't even grieve the Holy Spirit. You really can't. So, you know what I'm saying? There was a point where he said that. I got to go back and check. I think it was either in Matthew or Mark or John. I know it wasn't in Luke. I just went through Luke. I don't remember seeing it in Luke. I was just in there. I didn't finish all of it from the end, but I usually do that. So that's what I'll do. I'll go jump through the Gospels, and then I'll go somewhere else, and then I'll go back to the Gospels. Then I'll go somewhere else. I'll go back to the Gospels, because there's so many things, you know. So I will go over, you know, the 4 Gospels over and over and over again, over and over and over again. And you see it differently. And then the more you see it, the clearer it gets. The clearer it gets. The clearer it gets. It is what it is. That's cleaning out your system. You understand these things. That's what helps you to overcome problems in yourself. And then what? When you stop the hypocrisies, and then you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing, and having faith in it, then what are you doing? You're cleansing yourself. You're undergoing the process of overcoming the things that bind you up inside. So if emotionally you figure out how to break these things just by loving yourself, well, how much further could you go? You know what I'm saying? You start getting all these tips and tricks from Jesus when you really start looking at it. So it is what it is. So like right now I'm kind of in my lower self, and then I was in my higher self. So I kind of, we alternate. That's just what it is. When I say we alternate, when I say we, I'm talking about you and I. And when I say alternate, I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying, one moment we're in lower, and then the next minute we're in the higher. Just for anybody who was looking on a negative path. That negative path, that's how things mess a person up. And then if you stay positive and you're staying on point, and then we here. You know what I'm saying? But gotta hold it down. Because it's on I was gonna express the fact that staying positive is that you look at the positive first, and if it's in the same line of thinking, then it's going to yield positive results and not negative results, because you looked at the positive and not the negative. Like, you know, but sometimes people will say something or think something, and it doesn't mean I'm perfect either. It doesn't. I just know that when I'm in that zone, I'm in that zone. And when I know, I know. When you have Holy Spirit in you, and you're going after these things, that's what makes it the way it is. You know, and that's the revelation. And then when you're not in it, you're in your lower self. So that means then you obey what you're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? That's obeying yourself. Okay? And what you know to be true. That's where you say what you know, and not what you don't know. He said, what Jesus spoke on that. He said, we speak on what we know. You know what I'm saying? So when you know it, that's when you can reveal it. Alright, hold it down.